Good morning, everyone. I hope you're keeping well. So today I thought we would do a little bit of experimenting with embossing. Embossing is one of my favourite techniques, and I thought I'd share some techniques with you. As I was preparing these, I thought, oh, there's a lot more techniques. So I think I've worked it out. There's probably about three tutorials with embossing. So we'll start off today. Now, excuse me because I've only got my old crafty kids companion, crafty kids embossing heat tool because I've lent my lovely pink Kazaz one to a friend. So please forgive that. But when you see me use the heat tool, it's no longer, the blue is no longer available. We just have our lovely pink one. Okay, so I thought we'd just get started. So eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I might start with this one first, with the little Christmas one. I know it's a long way from Christmas, but with lockdown happening, it's probably a great time to start to get your Christmas cards together. So this is, so I don't know if you can see that. So the script here is embossed, and we're also embossing onto the vellum as well. Okay, so we're going to start off, we're going to smoosh the white card. So I've just got my little craft sheet. The craft sheets come much bigger than this, but I think this is a quarter of a sheet. So I often find the big sheets, especially when I'm doing workshops or for tutorials like this, I find it easier. So I've cut down my mat into 4 pieces, and I just find this convenient to hand round the table when you're doing workshops so that it's not taking up the whole table. So I'm going to use the Mermaid Lagoon Oxide and the Wilted Violet. So they're the colours that I've used on that Christmas card. So you're just pressing down, giving it a little squish of the purple, and then close by, not on top of it, because you don't want to get the purple into the Mermaid Lagoon ink pad. Now we'll put that away so I don't spray. Now I've just got a little atomizer here and the little mister bottle. What I've done is I've put some Perfect Pearls into the water. So the Perfect Pearls is this lovely fine dust, and I've just added a bit of that to the water just to give it a bit of a shimmer. Now, just going to give that a bit of a spray and try and blend them into each other a little bit. Then I'm just going to put down the piece of white card and give it a little twist. Bring it up. Oh, that's quite nice. So then I just dry that off. Now, the wonderful thing with the oxides is that they layer up really well and don't turn to mud like the distress inks would do if you were doing this technique with distress inks. So this is where the oxide inks really do a great job, because you can just keep layering up and you'll still be able to see the original layer. Excuse the noise. There we go. So that's done. But what I'm going to do now is I want to get a few more dots on there. So I'm just going to tap down in some different areas just to get a few more little dots on there. So it's quite nice with a little bit of white area as well. So I don't want to completely cover that. And this is the joy. Smooshing is the joy because no 2 cards are ever going to be the same. So just making sure that's all nice and dry. Otherwise, when we emboss, the embossing powder will stick to any moist areas. So we just get that all nice and dry. Now, because it's quite a distressed look, I don't really mind if a little bit of extra powder gets on there, but I didn't really want any great big globs of embossing powder. So I think that's done now. Sorry again for the noise, but that's what embossing is about. So I'll put that away. So you can see there that those lovely dots have come through, and it's just layered up beautifully. So some of the original dots you can see, and it builds up. So that's the great thing with the oxide inks. So now I'm just going to... The puff pillow is great for taking the static out of the card, but I think with this, I'm not going to really mind if there's a little bit of extra embossing powder, so I'm not going to use this. I'll definitely use it for the black birthday card, but I'm thinking that I won't worry about it. So we're just going to use the script, the Christmas script stamp, and we're going to use our clear embossing ink. So just tapping it on, and then just bending that back a little bit because it's wet, and then just lining it up and giving it a good press down. Now, while that's there, I'll get my trusty piece of paper and my embossing powder ready. Just pour on the embossing powder. And then just discard it off onto the sheet. So that's covered pretty well. Now I'm just going to put that just aside because I'll use that again. Sorry, more noise. So again with embossing, I tend to start off in one corner, and then as that changes, move the heat tool on. So I see a lot of people doing this sort of thing, and I find that you'll often miss things when that happens. Actually, I'm just going to stop, and I'm going to turn the light on because I think you might see better with the lights on. It's sort of a little bit dark here today. So I don't know if you can see that changing. So I'm just following it, and as it changes, I'm moving on. Because if you leave the heat tool in the one area for too long, the embossing will flatten out, so you don't get that lovely raised image. You kind of just get this flat, lifeless image. And what I find is if you shine it next to a light source, you'll then be able to see that that's all done. So just to show you that you can see there, that all looks done. Okie dokes. So that's that part done. So just put that aside. Now we're going to stamp onto the vellum our little poinsettia, which is just here. So again with the clear embossing ink, just tapping it on. Stamping it down onto the vellum. making sure your embossing powder is close by, because I find that's one of the little troubleshooting thing. If you find that your embossing powder isn't sticking to your ink, it's because your ink's dried out. So when you're embossing, always ink up first and get your embossing powder on straight away. Once the embossing powder is on, you can then leave it to emboss. So if you've got multiple images that you want to stamp, get your embossing powder on, stamp, get your embossing powder on, and then you can heat them all up in the one go. Now here's where the trusty little paintbrush. So I've just got this little bit of extra here, so you can just with the paintbrush just get rid of. But again, I don't really mind if there's a little bit of extra here and there. So again, just you want to take this and it will heat up very quickly. Just follow it around. And that's done. Now when you're cutting out embossed vellum, I always leave a little border, because I find if you cut too close to the edge of the embossing, then it can actually flip off. It can actually separate. So that's why I always cut just around the, so you can see there, I've just got a little edge on the little piece here. Okay. Now what I've done with this card is I've used our gold foil sticker sheets. So this is the sticker paper, so it's our gold foil sticker paper. But what I was also thinking that we could do is you can also, just let me make sure I've got the right piece of paper. Yep. With your embossing, you can also emboss the edges. So if we put down tape on the very edge of all four sides, and then we just peel it off. I think I didn't quite get that little edge there, so I'll just put a little bit more there. And then just flip that around the back. Okay, so now what we can do is just get the embossing powder on. Trust your little heat tool again. And then just heat the tape. So if you don't have any gold cardstock, this is something that you can do to mat your card topper. I just love the way it changes. And you get like almost a crackled type appearance on the tape. So you can see there, we've got a lovely edge on it, and then that way we can just add this. And then we've got a lovely gold mat. So like I said, we've got our gold sticker paper, or you can just emboss with your double-sided tape. And just adding to the card. And then we've got our white card here. So just folding that in half and giving it a good burnish with the bone scorer. Just makes that card sit nice and flat. And then just 4 pieces of tape on the side. On each side, I should say, not on this side. And then just centering that in the middle. Okay. Now, I forgot to cut a little piece for my gold. So all that is the sticker paper. But what you could do is do the same thing. So cut your little white piece, cut a little white piece of card that's just a little bit bigger than your sentiment piece. And then on the 2 edges, put your double-sided tape down, gold emboss that. Yeah, because that looks not quite right. I think it'd look nicer if you had this embossing on the top and bottom there as well. So for the little sentiment, I'm just using our little Merry Christmas stamp. And then the black archival ink. Remembering when you're stamping, give it a good stamp down on the table and then press straight down and straight up. And that way that will get stuck on there, and then that will get stuck to there. And then the little piece I've cut off, the little vellum piece I've cut around earlier. I didn't think you wanted to watch me cut around. A little bit of tape and then right up in the corner. And that's card done. So next I think we'll do this little one here. So this one I'm definitely going to use the puff pillow because I want this to be a bit crisp. I think you'll see there's probably a little bit of gold around, but it's nice if you can keep that nice black background. So again, with our cardstock, you've got a smooth side and you've got a rough side. I kind of like the texture, the way the texture comes out with the embossing. I like that sort of look. But what I'll do is this time I'm going to do it on the smooth side so that you can see the difference. So just getting your puff pillow on. So what the puff pillow does is it takes the static out of your paper so that the powder is just sticking, hopefully, to your stamped image. So I've been using the Distress ink to put the powder onto. There's other inks that we've got. The oxide inks you can actually use as well, so you can put clear embossing powder on them and then the colour will shine through. So if you were using the Wilted Violet, you'd then get a purple outline. So that's something that I want to show you next time. Now, of course, I've forgotten the magnolia. I thought I'd gotten all the stamps. Excuse me. That'll be right. Just when I think I've got it all right, one comes in. Now, I'm going to stamp the sentiment first because that's the main feature. And if I put these too close, I then might not have enough room. So if you get your sentiment on first, giving that a good ink up, having your embossing powder ready to go, and then just stamping that in the middle, giving it a good press down and up. Tap down. Looks like something's just... Where did I put that little paintbrush? There's a hair or something just there. Get it off. Oh, I think it might be one of my cat hairs. Get a nice firm tap down. That looks pretty well covered. Just heat it up, just following the embossing. Done. So you can see how fantastic the gold looks on the black. It just pops absolutely amazingly. Then we put our little magnolias on. So just inking up the magnolia and then just lining it up so it fits around the happy birthday. Just lifting it up and then just scooping the powder on. And then we can do the other side. So all of our Kazaz stamps come rubber backed, a rubber backed on foam. So you can see they cling to the acrylic blocks. I'm not going to take that one off, but you can see how you just press down and it clings. And I just put my finger in it. That was very good. Hopefully that's still got enough ink on it. So I can just That's the disadvantage of not heat embossing straight away. So we'll just get that. Oops. I need to actually show you, don't I? I've got that on. Give it a good tap down. I think I've got a few fingerprints on there. There we go. that was still wet enough so that I was able to get the embossing powder back on where I put my finger. So that worked out well. Then it's just heating up again. Okay. Now it's time to get some colour on. Actually, what I might do first is show you how I've done this little edge around here. So all that is, like if you want a nice even edge, you can use the double-sided tape. But if you want sort of a bit of a distressed edge, all I've done is use the ink pad, the clear embossing ink pad, and I've just gone around the edge. And then again, it's just scooping it into the and giving it a good tap down. I'm just checking, there's probably a bit much on here. So with the brush, I'm just going to brush a little bit of that off. There we go. So I think I'm quite happy with that. And then, oops, all khaki-handed. Just speeding it up. Okay, so that part's done. Then it's just getting your colours on. So I've used the new Kazaz metallic watercolour paints. So to start off with, where's my little pipette gone? Oh well, I can't find it, of course. Must have rolled off. So you just want to wet your paint first. So I've used this reddy pink colour for this one, but I thought I might use the purple on this one. So you just need to get a bit of water on so that it kind of activates the paint. And I'm going to get the green ready too. So just getting that paint activated. So I've got my little lid here that I can mix up the paint with. And then I'm going to go this I'm going to mix it in here where I've had kind of a little bit of the red and the black from before. Just giving yourself a nice little pool of colour to play with. Okay. Let me put this one away so it doesn't get dirty. And then it's just painting. So it's just painting in the colour. And as it dries, it kind of becomes more vibrant. I think I just coloured in a bit of the background rather than the petal. I need to put my glasses on. Yes, petal, petal. Another one. Sorry, you're probably seeing the top of my head there. Step back a bit. Just making sure I'm colouring in petal here, not not background. I just find painting, colouring in so very therapeutic. You just can sort of float away, can't you? So there's nothing special about the way I'm painting. They're probably, if you look online, you can probably see lots of ways that I'm not doing it correctly, but it turns out okay for me. So that's just tidy up a little bit. So that's the purple. And then just colouring in the green. So again, just reactivating the green. And then just colouring on in. Just painting the leaves, little branches. Okay, so that's done. So that's come up quite pretty with the purple too. So that's still a little bit wet there, but that's okay. I'm just going to dry that off with the heat tool before I turn it over. Smudge it everywhere. Now I can also give that a bit of a buff with the tissue to just bring back the gold that you might have painted over. again, it's 4 sides. Oh, and my tape's come all undone. 4 pieces of tape. People ask me how you put double-sided tape on. This is my way. I anchor it with my thumb, and then with my other finger on my other hand, I aim it to where it needs to go to, thumbnail down and tear. I never cut with scissors because I hate gumming up my scissors with the tape. Just put the paints away. Folding the card in half again. Nice crisp fold down. Let's give it a bit of a burnish. And then again, there's all sorts of ways to put it on if you want to line it up. So I tend to just take all 4 sides off and then lean over the top of it so I can see exactly where it's going. This is another way where you can just fold the pieces in half, flip them back on themselves, so that you then pop it down, aim it to where you want it to be, press down, and then you pull out the little tags, except of course I've lost that one. That one's gone back in. So that's one way of making sure that your sides are nice and even. So you can see there, I don't know if you really can notice a big difference between, I think again, it's just a little bit more textured. The texture comes through here, whereas the petals are smoother on here. So it's, you know, have a play around yourself and see what you prefer, which texture you prefer. I think I still prefer the textured side. It just looks a little bit more distressed, but that's my preference. And then the last one, this little one here, the little oatmeal one, we'll do that next. So I'm going to just change the colours. I've used Mermaid Lagoon Oxide on this one, but I'm going to use Blueprint Sketch on this one. So what we're doing first is doing our embossing, and then we're going to blend over the top. So I am going to pop the embossing powder on. Oh, embossing powder, sorry. Use the puff pillow to take the static away. And I've got my white powder here ready to go. And a sheet of clean paper. Just pressing down with the mandala stamp. In the corner. So there's one. Now remember not to touch the powder, Lucy Jones. Another little one out. And then another one up the side. Okay, so I've got the white all ready to emboss. Just heating up. So again, the white, you do the exact same thing as with the gold, no difference at all. see that yeah, that all looks good. All areas done. Now we're going to do our blending. So actually I might do the little stamp first. So hope your day is truly amazing. Just going to pop that down there. And then we're going to put our blue ink on. So just blending so that you're just going around the outside of each of the flowers. So when you're blending, circle it round and round on your ink pad, then start off the paper, off your card, and then circling evenly onto your page. Okay, I think I'm quite happy with that. Then with the little tissue again, just going to buff off some of that colour so that the white pops again. Okay. Then we're going to use the little mandala flower and the gold ink. A bit of extra. I think I accidentally stuck that. So we're just going to pop a couple of little flowers, and because I'm going to stamp quickly, I'm just going to see how that goes. Oops, so you can see, keep forgetting. Now, what's happened is I forgot a process. So the distress ink will pick up from the blending. So what happens, oh, that's come off okay, but it will stick to some of the blue that has been blended. So let's see how this turns out, because with the other card what I did was, and here's where experimenting, I love it. With this card I'd embossed the white and the gold first, and then I blended on the colour, and then I buffed it all off. With this time I've put the white on, blended with the colour, but I wanted to see what would happen if I did the gold embossing after I'd done the blue. So I hope that makes sense. So it's a different step. So what's happened is, because the blending ink is still a bit wet, it's going to pick up some of the gold. So we'll see what that looks like. So if you want to do it in that way, and you don't want lots of gold embossing powder all over the place, then I'd suggest drying it off with a heat tool so that the blended ink is completely dry. Like I said, I loved it. A bit of an experimentation. Okay, so you can see here what's happened is it's stuck to the hope your day is truly amazing as well. So I kind of quite like it. It has, for me, I would like to see that a bit bolder. But again, it's experimenting. It's a piece of card. Like, it hasn't taken me much time at all to create it. So I quite like the look of that. But again, if you didn't want that gold powder on there, that's turned up by itself, then you'd do your stamping last. Or you'd make sure that once you'd stamped, you'd then dry it off with the heat tool. But I quite like that. I definitely love the border. I love how the flowers are still showing, but there's this smattering of gold powder around the place as well. So I'm quite happy with that. Bit disappointed that I've lost my black, because I find the black pops, but c'est la vie. So now it's just 4 pieces of tape. There we go, so just popping that onto the black piece. And then onto oatmeal. So I would really love to see what you can come up with when you're experimenting, when you're playing. So please post your pictures to my Facebook page, because at Lucy's Kazaz at Batteau Bay. I would truly love to see them. And if you want any more information on any of the products that I've used, please feel free to contact me. You can comment, or you can email me, or whatever you want to do. And all of these products are available from my web store. So they're all the cards. So I hope you have fun playing. Enjoy. Have a wonderful day. And if you're in lockdown, stay safe. Do something that you love to do to keep you sane. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye, and hopefully we'll see you in a fortnight.